بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this life with a purpose. And the purpose of this life is only for us to pass this test and enter into Jannah. And in the ayat and ahadith on that are so many, so numerous that it would take us off topic. But I want to make this point that we shouldn't get caught up in this life thinking this is all there is to live. And if this life was it, then life would be pointless. And everything that we've done in our life is only a memory to us today. And even if you lived a childhood of extreme luxuries or extreme hardships, by the time you get to bulugh, all of that is nothing but a memory. If you live your teens, if you live your the 20s and 30s of your life in extreme luxury or extreme hardship, by the time you get to be 40, 60, 70, you might not even remember most of it. By the time, if Allah gives somebody life to live up to 70 and 80 and 90 years of age, for the few that do, mostly don't even remember what happened in their life. You tell them you remember this place and they forget. So life, if it was just for what we live in this worldly life, it would be pointless. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this life with a purpose, and that purpose is to earn the akhirah, is to get to al-Jannah, our destination. That's why Rasulullah told us to be in this dunya like a abir as-sabil, the one who is traveling on a path. Because this dunya is not forever. And this is why I want to talk about one of the ways that a person, if they do it correctly, no doubt they are guaranteed Jannah. They are guaranteed to reach their destination. That their life is successful. No matter how much money they had, no matter how much wealth or fame, but they were successful if they went this path. And that is the path of the shaheed, the one who is a martyr fi sabilillah. But who is a shaheed? What are the rewards of a shaheed? What are the ahkam of shahada? What is the proper understanding? Inshallah, in a short amount of time, in a brief, concise manner, we'll talk about that today. I'm going to begin with some of the fada'il, some of the virtues of the shuhada, of the martyrs in Islam. And I'm going to summarize from Sahih Ahadith. Don't have time to go in depth. Wallahi, if we gave a series of duroos just on the fada'il of shuhada, we could do it over many days. But today we'll go in a summary. First thing, many people think that when somebody becomes a shaheed, in jihad fi sabilillah or qital fi sabilillah, they will have a lot of pain, and they went through this hardship. But we know that those that are in qital fi sabilillah, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us in the hadith reported by Imam al-Tirmidhi, who graded to be Hasan Sahih, as Shaykh al-Albani also graded to be authentic, that the shaheed fi sabilillah does not feel the pains of death any more than somebody feeling the bite of an ant. If you're bit by an ant, you can feel it, but it doesn't really hurt. And compared to the death and the sakarat of maut, the pains of death that everybody else goes to, the shaheed has no pain of death. On top of that, in a long hadith, and I'm going to summarize the hadith reported by Tirmidhi, who graded as Hasan, Ibn Majah, Imam Ahmad in his Musnad have also reported as Shaykh Albani graded to be Sahih. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave us some of the virtues of the shuhada. And there are some differences in the wording. I'm going to summarize from them. One, and the first and foremost, that he is forgiven all of his sins the first time his blood is shed. Another riwayah, before the first drop of blood hits the ground. In the riwayah of Tirmidhi, when the first drop of blood starts to stream, he's forgiven all his sins. Subhanallah, what is better than this? All this life, we dirty ourselves with sin, but the shaheed at that point of death, right before he even dies, when the first drops of blood start to pour, all his sins are forgiven. Second, he will be shown his maqam, his place in Jannah. At that time of death, before the qabr, before the day of judgment, he already has a guarantee. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even shows him his place in Jannah, or her place. Shuhada can be men or women. The first shaheed for Islam was Sumayya radiallahu anha. So before they even get to the qabr, before they even get to hisab or any of that, they're shown their place in Jannah. Imagine that time in the qabr, how easy is it for the shaheed, because he or she knows that they already have their place in Jannah set. Third, there is no fitna or adab of qabr for them. Yani there is no trials, no punishments in the qabr. Subhanallah, what a beautiful blessing. Imagine those people that became shuhada in the time of Adam alayhi salam, or in the time of Idris alayhi salam, or in the time of Nuh alayhi salam, and how many thousands of years have passed on them in the qabr. No hardship on the shaheed. For everybody else, there is test. For the mu'min, yes, it's made short and easy, but for the one who was a fasiq or fajr or kafir or mushrik, imagine just that time in the qabr and just the adab of the qabr, they would have forgotten any pleasures of dunya already. Next, and I'm going fast because we have a lot to cover in a short amount of time. There is no hardship on the day of judgment. Subhanallah, a day that is such a harsh day, it would turn a child's hair white. From the stress of that day, the day that every Nabi warned his people about, this day of the day of judgment. You find it mentioned in the earlier text, you find it mentioned in the Quran, in Sahih Ahadith, so many segments to that day, 50,000 years and 1,000 years, different. It's not just one 24-hour day, it's a very long time. All that will be made easy for the shaheed. He will have no hardships on the day of judgment. Fifth, a crown of dignity and honor will be placed on his head. And this is what Allah has blessed. Also for the huffaz of Quran is a different hadith, that the parents of the huffaz of Quran, a crown of nur will be placed on their head. What is this crown like? We could not imagine. Don't just think of some king with a little crown in the dunya. No, this is a crown not of gold or silver, but a crown of dignity and honor. And it has jewels. Rasulullah said that one of the rubies on it is better than this world and whatever it contains. In the explanation of this hadith, Shaykhuna Abu Muhammad, he said that this means that it's not like a regular ruby of this dunya or a diamond of this dunya. Rather, it is something so beautiful, so valuable, it is unimaginable in the dunya. So Rasulullah gave us an example and said that this one ruby on this crown is better than the world and everything it contains. All the wealth people compete for and lie for and cheat for and sell their iman for, all of that worldly wealth is nothing compared to just one ruby on the crown that is placed on the head of the shaheed on the day of judgment. Sixth, he will be married to 72 of the Hurul Ain. And this is a minimum, not a maximum. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives more than that is more than that. And we are not ashamed of any of these things. Alhamdulillah, we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with what He has promised us with by letting us be from those that are shuhada. And seventh, he will intercede for 70 of his relatives. Many of the ulama said 70, 70 here is given as just a number for a large number. What does that mean? Those of his relatives that died on Tawheed. You cannot intercede for those on Shirk. But for those that died on Tawheed, but they had so many sins that they would be heading to the hellfire, he will make shifa'. He will intercede for them, the shaheed. For 70 of them, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives them because of his shifa'. And this is the honor of having a shaheed in your family. And we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us from those that benefit from these. Tayyib, now understanding the fadail, and there are many more. You can look up the books that have been authored on just this subject. I also want to make clear what is not a shaheed. Because some people, they misuse these fadail to cause harm to the Muslim ummah and to shed innocent blood. And this is haram in Islam. And I don't say this out of the fear of anybody but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, لا تقتلوا أنفسكم. Do not kill yourselves. And based on this beginning of this part of the ayah, we know that suicide in it of itself is haram in Islam. It is not allowed in Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us in the hadith that is muttafaqun alayh, reported by Imam al-Bukhari, hadith number 3276, reported by Imam Muslim in his Sahih, hadith number 113, that kana fikum kana qablakum rajulun. There was a person amongst the people before you. فجرح يعني به جرح, and he had a injury, and he panicked from his injury, so he took a knife and he cut his hand and kept on bleeding until he died. Yani this man, he had an injury, he was bleeding. Many of the ulama said this means that he had an injury fighting fi sabilillah. Wallahu alam. But from the hadith we know that he was bleeding, and from that panic he just decided to kill himself. He didn't want to live through that pain. So when he killed himself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قال Allah ta'ala, Rasulullah tells us in this hadith and in Bukhari and Muslim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this abd of mine has hastened his death. And he has hastened his death. He committed suicide to get it over with. فَحَرَّمْتُ عَلَيْهِ الْجَنَّةِ, so I made Jannah haram on him. Subhanallah. Yani a Muslim never turns to suicide. Suicide is to give up hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are no shortcuts to Jannah. Yani you have to follow the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned Hadith al-Bukhari. In Sahih al-Bukhari, he had a man fighting amongst the Muslims who fought very bravely. Jihad, qital, fi sabilillah. And when his body was found, the people started to say he is from the people of Jannah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, he is from Ahlul Nar, the people of the Nar. People were shocked. And how can somebody who was fighting alongside the Muslims, alongside Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fighting the kuffar in jihad, and he died, and Rasulullah is saying he's from the people of An-Nar? One man said that I saw this man fighting bravely, and he had many injuries. And because of his injuries, what he did, he took his sword, he put it on the ground, and he laid on it himself, committed suicide. He killed himself. Another narration, another riwayah of the same hadith, the man had said he didn't fight except for nationalism, and except because his qawm was fighting. Two lessons there. One, even in qital fi sabilillah, in jihad fi sabilillah, suicide is not to be used. Secondly, that we do not fight for nationalism. And those who fight for Palestinian rights and those who fight for my country and my land, this is not jihad fi sabilillah. But those who fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those are mujahideen. Ibn Jawzi, the great alim, in his explanation of this hadith, he said this was during the battle of Uhud. And this man fought not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but out of a sense of pride, of his ability to fight, and because his qabila, his tribe was that time aligned with the Muslims. So we see that those who harm the Muslims, those who go and commit suicide attacks in masajid and marketplaces, killing innocent people, and think this is becoming a shaheed, this is not shahada fi sabilillah. As Shaykh Ibn Baz, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, and others have clarified that this is not becoming a shaheed. What is the core of shahada? Not being fed up with life. And it's not like, okay, I'm sick of life, I'm just going to go and get killed. No. First is to understand is a niyyah, is the intention, the pure intention. And that is more important than even the action of either fighting or going out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us in the hadith reported by Imam Muslim in his Sahih, authentic hadith, Man sa'ala Allah ta'ala shahada bisidqin. One who asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to become a martyr, become a shaheed, bisidq, truthfully. Not that you just say, oh Allah, make me a shaheed, but you know you're not doing anything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know there are opportunities, but you're not participating in them. You're just sitting there fooling yourself. No. But the one who sincerely asks, even if it's an old woman, even if it's a child, even if it's somebody who physically could never reach that level, but they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bisidq, فَبَلَّغَهُ اللَّهُ مَنَازِلَ الشُّهَدَاءِ وَإِنْ مَاتَ عَلَى فِرَاشِهِ. What did Rasulullah tell us? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes that person to that level, to the reward, to the maqam, the manazil of a shaheed, even if they die on their bed. So what does that tell you? The reward for becoming a shaheed, first and foremost, has to do with your niyyah, is your intention. And that means your intention should be in accordance to the sharia. Not that you break the laws of sharia to then say, okay, I'm a shaheed because I killed a bunch of Muslims, because I was attacking one fasiq or kafir, and a bunch of people just shopping for their groceries die, I'm a shaheed. No. Jihad has laws. There is protection of those who are innocent. The blood of the innocent is protected in the Sharia, in the Muslims, in Ahlul Dhimma and others. So you have to do everything in accordance to the Sharia. This is your true niyyah. And then, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts you, you will be a shaheed. If not, if you really had that niyyah, and you asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then even if you never fight a day in your life, even if you never saw a battlefield, even if you die on your bed, you will be a shaheed. This is the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he has told us, in a hadith where he asked the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, who do you think is shaheed fi sabilillah? So they said, the one who goes out and fights in the path of Allah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that if that was true, there would be very few shuhada in our ummah. And then he explained some categories of shuhada, which I will get into in the later part of the dars. But what does that tell you? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has such mercy that He opens up this bab of being shaheed not just to those who can go on a battlefield. Tayyib. But before I go on to that, you always want to keep a balance. There's always in this ummah a unfortunate disease of extremism on either side. You always want to keep a balance. It also doesn't mean that you have able-bodied men who are able to defend the Muslims, and at the same time they're just sitting at home watching TV and thinking, Ya Allah, I'm going to be shaheed. Don't want to go to any extreme. And here I will also mention a hadith that Imam Muslim has mentioned in his Sahih. فَقَالَ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم, for Rasulullah has told us, Man mata, the one who dies, وَلَمْ يَغَزُّ, the one who does not participate in battle, nor does he have that intention to participate in battle. فَمَاتَ عَلَى شُعْبَةٍ, he has died upon with the element min al-nifaq, from hypocrisy. May Allah protect us. At least every Muslim should have that niyyah to be ready for when there is a requirement to defend the Muslims, to defend the honor of Islam, they are ready. And if you don't have that sincerely in your heart, you die with a element of nifaq. May Allah protect us from this. And know that jihad doesn't mean just going and getting killed. Because the one who goes out fi sabilillah, Rasulullah said about them, قَفْلَةٌ كَالْغَزُوَةِ, they're returning. فقال Imam al-Nawawi القفله قفلة الرجوع. What does that mean? That their coming back from jihad is as their jihad was. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that if you go for jihad, definitely you have to die. And that's why people strapping bombs and think, no, I'm just going to die. No, this is not the way jihad works. Jihad works, you go and you fight fi sabilillah. And maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for you to be a ghazi, to be a victor, like Khalid ibn al-Walid. And that doesn't mean that you have any lower status. Rather, you had your niyyah, you had your sincere intention. This hadith is reported by Abu Dawud with a jayyid, authentic narration. And then even if Allah doesn't write for you to die, you will get the reward of a shaheed. Because you had your niyyah. Tayyib, who are shuhada? No doubt the one who dies in qital fi sabilillah has a special status. And you don't want to degrade that status either. And they have special ahkam. And the one who dies sincerely fighting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to the laws of the Sharia, according to the laws of jihad, then no doubt they are a shaheed fi sabilillah that will be raised on the day of judgment with their blood flowing and in the clothes. And this is special ahkam for them. One, there is no washing of the shaheed. You don't need to wash their body. They will be raised on the day of judgment with that blood flowing. This will be an honor for them. There is no kafan for the shaheed who dies in qital fi sabilillah. Their kafan is the clothes that they die in. And there is no janazah for the one who dies in qital. Now, there are exceptions to these rules in fiqh, and I'm not going to get into the fiqh rulings here, but this is the aam for the one who goes out and fights in the battlefield fi sabilillah. In the hadith that Imam Muslim has mentioned in Sahih, Rasulullah also said that the one who goes out to fight but doesn't die in direct combat, but dies of other causes fi sabilillah, is also a shaheed. Tayyib? So the first shaheed we'll mention is the one who dies fighting. The second category, the one who goes out to fight but dies of something else. Maybe they have an accident, maybe some other natural cause, but they were out fi sabilillah, is a shaheed, as the hadith from Sahih Muslim. And if you want to know more, there is a whole chapter on this in the book Riyadh al-Salihin. It's chapter number 235, which has a whole bab of those that are shuhada without fighting. Tayyib. Third, as the hadith that is muttafaqun alayh in Bukhari and Muslim, and a longer hadith that reported by Abu Dawud and At-Tirmidhi and Imam Ahmad, also authentic, gives us the one who dies defending himself or his family. The Muslim, if somebody comes to harm you, or your wife, or your children, or your mother, or those that are with you, and you defend yourself or your family, you die a shaheed. No doubt, from Sahih Ahadith. Next, this will be number 4, right? Yes. My finger counting is correct. Number 4, the one who dies in defense of Islam. And when Islam is being harmed and you defend Islam, you will be a shaheed fi sabilillah. 5th, the one who dies defending his mal, his wealth. So authentic narration. What does that tell you? Muslims no punk. And you come to me and you want to take my wealth, I'm going to defend it. I'm not going to be oppressive about it, but I'm going to defend it. And even if during that defense I die a shaheed. And during that defense, if you kill the oppressor, after you've tried to stop him by every other means in the Sharia, you are justified to do so. Why? Because this sets a precedent that people shouldn't steal from others. If people know that you're a punk, that people know you're weak, and if they come and take, you will give, and you'll be too scared to even do anything about it, then people will punk you. That's the way the world works. I mean, this idea of turning the other cheek when you get slapped, impractical. And nobody does it. Go to a Christian priest, go to a Catholic priest, slap him, let's see if he turns the other cheek, or if he goes and calls the police and he files charges. Why? Because he knows that if you slap somebody and they turn the other cheek, they're just going to get slapped again, and again, and again, until their manhood is taken. So a Muslim is never like that. A Muslim defends his wealth, and if he dies defending his wealth, he's a shaheed. And this is the 5th. 6th, the one who dies from a ta'un or the plague. Now there are shari ahkam about the difference between ta'un and habas and all these kinds of things. I'm not going to get into that. But the one who dies of the plague, as the hadith that is muttafaqun alayh, reported by Bukhari and Muslim. And I alluded to this hadith earlier, where Rasulullah asked the Sahaba radiallahu anhum who are shuhada, and they said the one who fi sabilillah. Rasulullah will be very few of the ummah, and he gave these other categories. So I will mention them as well. So number 6 here is the one who dies from the plague. And what we are going through right now with the coronavirus, wallahu alam, if this is a ta'awun or not, but some of the ulama have considered it such, so we will leave that inshallah. But there are some characteristics of who would be shaheed from there, and I will discuss that in a minute inshallah. Tayyib. Next, the one who dies from a disease of the belly, that is in the stomach. And there are different diseases that happen in the stomach, and they put a person through a lot of pain. Some types of cancer would also be included there. Other diseases that are in the intestines and others are included here. Because of the hardship of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His mercy gives that person the level of a shaheed. The one who is drowned, and drowning is a very difficult way of dying as well, and this is also a shaheed. But these shuhada, there is the washing of the body, there is the kafan, there is the janazah for them. That is only for the one who dies qital fi sabilillah. Tayyib. Next, the one who dies under debris of construction. And many of the people in the Muslim lands and others, when there are earthquakes and they die, when the roof falls on them, those are shuhada due to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tayyib, from many ahadith, I'm going to summarize, and I'll mention one of the ahadith first. This hadith is reported by Aisha radiallahu anha, where she asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam an at-ta'awun, about the plague. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed her that kana adaban, this is a adab, this is a punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts upon the people. But ja'alahu Allah rahmata lil mu'mineen. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this a mercy for the believer. So the ta'awun is a punishment for others, but it's a mercy for the believer. This corona or whatever else will fall under that category. Even if it's a punishment for others, it's a mercy for the believer. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, فَلَيْسَ مِنْ عَبْدٍ, that there is not a slave of Allah, يَكَعَوْ, that goes through the ta'un, that the ta'un happens upon them. And they do not spread from their land, they stay in their land. Some of the riwayat they mention balad, some of them makan, the area that they're in. Sabiran. So what is one of the conditions here? They have sabr, they have patience. Tayyib. Second, يَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُ لَنْ Second, that they know nothing happens to them إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَهُ, except what Allah had written upon them. Nothing happens to them except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for them. So the second is that they know that everything happens because of what Allah, because the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From other ahadith, we also have, as the Shaykh Islam Taqiyuddin Ibn Taymiyyah has pointed out, that they are pleased with the qadr of Allah. That they don't sit there and complain. They don't say, oh, why me? Why is this gotta happen to me? Bas umung da nasib da. Why? Bas hum pe aise hota hai. Like in whatever languages people complain and they speak ill of qadr and they speak ill of what has been written for them, then they will not be from this category. So they are patient. They know that nothing happened except with the qadr, and they are pleased with whatever Allah has written for them. And lastly, from other ahadith as well, which is that they stick to the laws of Sharia. And if they don't start going and saying, okay, I'm going to die anyway, so I'm just going to go do whatever haram and this and that. No, they stay within the laws of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained. If it's been ordained that the plague has come to their land and the Sharia tells them that you stay, then they stay. They don't go try and run from it wherever they can, spreading it everywhere else and then be like, okay, I'm a shaheed. No. And when you fulfill these, then إِلَّا كَانَ لَهُ مِثْلَ الْأَجْرِ الشَّهِيدِ, then it will not be except that they will get the reward of a shaheed. Ibn Hajar Asqalani in Fath al-Bari, in the Sharh of Sahih al-Bukhari, and Shaykh Islam Taqiyuddin Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim and others who discussed this hadith, they said that this will be applicable even for those who don't die. And if those who go through the plague and those who reach that hardship of being patient, but they are sabiran lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are patient for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are radiyan lil qadr Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pleased with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are ya'lamun, they know that whatever has been written for them, ma kataba Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alayhi, this is that will happen which Allah has written upon them, they are tabi' to the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then even if they live through the plague, they live fine, they will get the reward of a shaheed. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us patient. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who know the boundaries of Sharia and they live within that boundary of Sharia. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are pleased with the qadr that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all from the shuhada. Wa jazakumullahu khairan.